Welcome to the Best Music Podcast. My name is Dan the Music Man, and this week's featured guest is Jim Peterik, the undeniable, Grammy-winning, master songwriter, storyteller, singer, multi-instrumentalist, and producer. Jim Peterik's career can hardly be summed up in a 366-page book, never mind a podcast intro. Let's just say that his songs have made it onto the top 10 over a period of 4 decades and in 2 separate centuries. He has multiple multi-platinum releases and over 1,000 published songs, with acts like the Ides of March, Survivor, The Beach Boys, Cheap Trick, Reba McIntyre, Sammy Hagar, 38 Special, Pride of Lines, Zant, and so many others. You can find him and his past and current projects. JimPeterik.com. That's JimPeterik.com. The Ides of March.com. aprideoflines.com, Jim Peterik's Lifeforce.com, and of course on Facebook, official Jim Peterik. Jim, thank you so much for coming on today. It's an honor.
Oh man, thanks for having me, Dan. Wow, I'm impressed. Oh no, wait, no, you can't be impressed with yourself. No, it was fun. It's been a great career. I turned 70 in November, and I still feel like I'm 19. So it's all good.
What a blessing. You feel like the music's keeping you young?
It is. There's no doubt about it. Right now, I'm working on multiple projects, and I wake up in the morning, okay, I get to write with the group Chicago today. All my heroes, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. I'm writing with Larry and the producer and Brian, of course. Dennis DeYoung is just putting out the second album of 26 East. It's a 2-part album, and he lives 2 blocks away, so I get up in the morning, I walk over there if I want to with my guitar. It's like the old days, literally living the dream, the rock and roll dream.
That's amazing. So I got a couple warm-up questions for you, if you're ready for them.
Ready.
So what's a piece of music or a song that you've heard in the past couple days that really stood out to you and kind of caught your attention?
Wow. Boy, that's good. I haven't been listening to the radio much because I've been working on my own stuff. So you kind of put me on the spot there. What should I say? Well,
you can plug one of your songs. How about that?
Well, that's a little cheap, But I wrote one with Dennis that I'm really proud of. It's but I can't talk about it.
Okay. All right. Well, something to look forward to.
It's not out yet. I'm an oldies guy. I hate to say this, but I'm not really a cutting edge guy. I still listen to like the classic rock stations, the 70s channel, the 60s channel, the 80s channel, of course. I'm not saying those are the best years, but sometimes you wrap your memories into the songs, and they mean so much more when you've lived through those songs and you remember the day you first heard Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys. I do remember when I heard that. I was driving in my 64 Valiant and it came on the radio and I go, what the hell is this? This is genius, And then, of course, many years later, I ended up writing with Brian Wilson. Talk about a dream come true. And when I was growing up, it was the 3 Bs. It was the Beatles, it was Burt Bacharach, and it was Brian Wilson. And for me, it didn't get any better than that. Of course, I never wrote with the Beatles. Well, Paul McCartney's still alive, so that's
Ringo.
Possible. As Ringo, right? But he's not really a songwriter yet. Octopus's Garden, but it's a whole different story. But Paul McCartney is one of my heroes. You talk about a melody guy like nobody else. He and Elton John to me are the number one melody writers, much less great pop craftsmen.
My next question for you is, why the color purple? So we see your hair, we see clothes, branding, even some album covers from projects you've been a part of feature the color purple. Where does that inspiration come from?
Well, I love Prince, but it's not that. I've had this now for 11 years, and actually I was born with purple hair, and my mother kept dyeing it brown. And then I just finally let it grow out. That's the story that Dennis DeYoung tells when he talks about me. but seriously, 11 years ago, I decided, what can I create to kind of stand out a little bit? When I was with the Ides of March the first time around, I was like 18 and 19 years old when Vehicle came out. And I was this crazy teenage guy with the fringe and the long hair and the feather in my ear. And, I was rock and roll. And then when Survivor came along, I was kind of more conservative. I had just gotten married and I was just a little more straight-laced and this and that. But when I left Survivor in 96, I decided I'm going back to my teenage years and getting a little wild and crazy. And that's when I created the purple. And I dress like I do now with custom clothes and having a lot of fun with that.
Oh, so cool. So cool. Absolutely rock and roll. So your talent, musicianship, musicality, and storytelling seems to transcend genre. Not just your own projects, but everyone you've written for. So do you have a different process when you approach different artists or different genres? So let's say, for example, writing a song with Sammy Hagar versus Reba McIntyre.
Wow. Well, very much. I'm very lucky because I'm such a fan of almost all types of music. If I'm writing for Reba, I'll get into that country frame of mind because there's some great country stuff. If I'm writing with Dennis DeYoung, I'm absorbing the whole Styx thing, that royal pompous kind of thing that Dennis did. And what's great about the Dennis project is that instead of running away from his past with Styx, he wanted to embrace it. And his fans are loving him going back to that sound. With Sammy Hagar, we had our marching orders. I got together with him the first time I met him. This is 1981. And we sit down and what are we going to do now? And he says, well, there's this new movie coming out. My manager just told me about a movie called Heavy Metal and they need a theme song. When you get your marching orders, like with Rocky, Frankie and I had the script that we had the rough cut of the movie. The song was basically just put that movie into music and you got it made. Same thing with Hagar and Heavy Metal. One-way ticket to midnight. Call it heavy metal, higher than high, feeling just right. Call it heavy metal noise. About two hours later, we had the song where we're drinking tequila at the bar. So I love all types of music. I'm not really into rap. I appreciate it, but it's not my thing, So I'm a fan of so many types of music. So I make a good co-writer because I kind of like musical tofu. I tend to absorb the flavors around me, and get in that frame of mind.
Absolutely. Credit for this next question actually goes to the great Scott May. Jim, you've written or co-written so many top 10 songs. Can you tell us about your favorites?
Hey, Scotty, I know you're not there live, but Scotty's a member of the Ides of March. He was the guy that would always be in the front row when the Ides of March were playing in 1967, 68, 69, 70. There was this guy always in the front row kind of taking mental notes, And then when we needed a keyboard player in 91, there was only one guy we called, and that was Scott May. And he's just a dear friend and an amazing B3 player. What was the question?
Well, hey, Scott, the question is, you've co-written or written so many top 10 songs. Can you tell us about some of your favorites that you've written?
Okay. Well, I love a great ballad, and I was lucky enough to write one or co-write one. Frankie and I were working on what became the Vital Signs record with Survivor in 1983, early 83, 84, early 84, not that it matters. Anyway, and we were auditioning singers because Dave Bickler had just left the band. And right before Jimmy Jamison auditioned, Frankie and I were working on a ballad, and it started, how can I convince you what you see is real? Who am I to blame you for doubting what you feel? We were on a roll, man. But it wasn't until I came up with the hook, search is over, you were with me all the while, that I got the goosebumps. Sometimes you can really take for granted the things that aren't the most obvious and search the whole world over for happiness, fame, for love, and come full circle and realize you had it all along. And that song became the nucleus of that lyric. And to this day, The Search Is Over is played in weddings, bar mitzvahs, funerals, Alcoholic Anonymous meetings. It's crazy because everybody has their own search, Dan, and everybody's searching for something. But that's probably one of my most favorite songs. And not to be macabre, but on my tombstone someday, not in the near future, it'll say Jim Peterik, The Search Is Over.
Wow.
So that's one of my favorites. I love the song Vehicle, which was a #1 record for the Ides of March when I was lead singer and lead guitar player. 1970, the song came out, rocketed to the top of the charts, the fastest breaking single in Warner Brothers history at the time. And suddenly, I'm 19 years old. Larry, who's sitting right here, I've known Larry since 3rd grade, and now he's my main engineer, co-producer, co-writer, hooks me up with all these gizmos like this TV set. And, some things never change. You get these great friends. So Ides of March are together, and I wrote this song for my girlfriend to try to win her back because she would always be asking me for rides but not giving me dates, So one day I said to myself, Karen, all I am is your vehicle, baby. And boom, the light bulb popped on top of my head, and I heard this riff in my head, ba-da-ba-ba-da. Here we go, guys, come over to the house, we got a new one, And we cut that thing, and it went to #1. And suddenly we're on the road with Led Zeppelin, Janis Joplin, the Grateful Dead. Who else, Larry? So many. Oh, Jimi Hendrix. What, Larry? Yeah. Living the dream at 19. So those were really good times, Dan.
One of the amazing things about the entire album Vehicle, which includes the single you were just talking about, is the maturity, not only of your voice, but of the entire band and the songwriting and the content. And it's this very self-aware, but also humorous, creative world. Like thinking about Symphony for Eleanor, like who on earth writes a song like that? But boy, does it work.
Well, we had some good bones to work with, but I think the genius of that was when we combined Dharma for One by Jethro Tull with Symphony for Eleanor. That song went on our live shows. It went on for 20 minutes. We got standing ovations every time. So that was a big song for us.
Absolutely. In your book, Through the Eye of the Tiger, you mentioned that Bob Bergland's first recorded impression of you was that you could play all the chords. Now, without the desire to read music, or as you call them, ants on the page, or taking formal lessons besides some instructions from your sisters when you were like 4 or 5 on the ukulele, how did you learn to play all the chords? You talk about practicing the bar chords for a blues. Where did this information come from?
Actually, my sisters.
Really?
They taught me how to play ukulele. I was 4 years old, and I couldn't even wrap my hand around a tiny little, ukulele neck. It wasn't until I was like 5, and I got it up. And my sisters, Alsan and Janice, we would go on family vacations to Florida every year. I'd sit in the back seat with Janice and Alsan, and they taught me ukulele. 4 strings on a uke, 6 strings on a guitar. I got my first electric guitar. Actually, my first guitar was a folk guitar, like this, only nowhere near as good. And all I had to do was figure out what to do with the other 2 strings, with the other 2 fingers. I taught myself. No chord books. I'm not bragging because I should have bought Nick Lucas or whatever. I just learned it myself, and I figured out bar chords. Bar chord is like a capo, only you're doing it with your index finger. And in fact, my prowess with bar chords is really what got me the gig with the Ides of March. I was playing with this terrible band called the Renegades for the 4th of July celebration at Morton West High School, our alma mater. And unbeknownst to me, Larry Millis, right here, and Bob Bergland were in the bleachers, and they were going, hey, that guy that plays lead and sings, he knows bar chords. He's cool. So 2 weeks later, Larry Millis knocks on my door and says, your band stinks. My band is much better than yours. Come on over and audition and let's jam. And I go, no, I don't want any part of it. I got a band, 2 weeks later, he comes back again. He's starting to be a pest. I said, okay, I'll visit your band. And that's when I met Bob Berglund. Well, I knew Bob Berglund and Larry Mills from school, but that's when I met them as members of the band. And I remember the first song we worked out was Tell Me Why by the Beatles. And the fact that they could stay on their harmony part without changing to my part was like huge, because every band I was in, they would always change to my part. But the Ides of March, we had three-part harmony right from the get-go, and that was a big deal.
And to explain for our listeners who may not understand what that is, typically you would have the lead singer singing a lead part, and they'd be singing it with a lot of confidence and pretty gosh darn loud. And then you'd have background singers or backup singers who are going to sing different notes around that. And then part of the issue is if you don't have either the musical compass or the ability to audiate your part, which is different from other people's parts in your head, then you can actually gravitate to the most confident singer and just end up singing their notes as well.
Wow, it sounds like you've been in a couple of terrible bands. I don't know. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Oh, boy. So with the album vehicle, was there any art or cultural things that were inspiring you? Because throughout the discography of the Ides of March, we see themes like Medusa and different mythological things that come up. What's the relationship there?
Well, Bald Medusa, one of the strangest songs I've ever written or co-written. Mike Borch, our drummer, said, I got this really weird phrase, Bald Medusa. What is that? Well, it's like Medusa with all the snakes, but the snakes are gone. Bald Medusa. Well, I said, of course. What else? And of course, our hormones were all raging. So bald became B-A-L-L-E-D. I bald Medusa. But we made it Bald Medusa, B-A-L-D, Medusa. And Led Zeppelin, we were really into Zeppelin at the time. We had just seen Zeppelin at the Kinetic Playground in Chicago. They were on a bill with Jethro Tull and Illinois Speed Press. I mean, those are the days where $5 you'd sit on the floor and see three amazing nationwide bands, and I was so into Zeppelin and that Bald Medusa. I mean, that's Zeppelin all the way. That's Heartbreaker all the way, So we have a lot of strange roots. We also opened up for Blood, Sweat, and Tears. No, we went to see Blood, Sweat, and Tears when they had just gotten David Clayton Thomas on lead vocals. And I brought a cassette in my pocket to give to them with a song called Vehicle on it. And luckily, David Clayton Thomas was he wouldn't take the tape and said, basically, get away, kid, you're bothering me, And history would have been changed if he had taken that tape. Thank God he was a...
Oh, my editor's going to have fun with that one. Okay. So, latest album from the Ides of March is called Play On, that came out in 2019. Definitely recommend everyone go check that out, stream it, buy it, support the band. You are also formerly of the band Survivor. Can you talk a little bit about the song Eye of the Tiger? You alluded to it at the beginning.
Oh, you mean... I remember that one. Okay, I remember it now. Well, that was... If I never have a song bigger than that, I can rest in peace, But I'm always striving to have one more that people go around singing and dancing to and cheerleading to, and you turn on the TV and it's on a commercial or up. I mean, that song has been such a blessing. But one day I got home from shopping or whatever it was, and on the answering machine I hear, "Hey, yo, Jim, give me a call. It's Sylvester Stallone. That's a nice answering machine you got there." That's when answering machines were kind of a novelty, And I thought someone was putting me on. I mean, wouldn't you? No secretary, no nothing. And it's Stallone, and I said, Karen says, who is that? I said, oh, it's some joker pretending to be Sylvester Stallone. And my wife, in her wisdom, says, you better call that person back because that might be Stallone. So, okay, I call him back. It was an LA area code, which is a good start. And he answers the phone. Yo, I go, yo, hey, yo, is this really Sylvester Stallone? He goes, hey, Jimbo, call me Sly. So here's a kid from Berwyn calling my hero Sly. It was such a surreal moment. I still think about that going, it was unreal. I mean, it had no warning, no secretary, no nothing. So he starts talking. He said, well, I got this new movie called Rocky 3. And I don't want to use that Gonna Fly Now song. It's a nice song. But I'll never forget, he said, I want something with a pulse, something for the kids. And I'm 31 years old. I wasn't a kid anymore, but I knew what the kids like, And he said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you a rough cut of the movie, and I want you to rent a Betamax Pro and set it up, put it in, and watch the movie, and write me a song that'll outlive you and me. I'll never forget he said that. So I rented the Betamax. The next day or 2 days later, the Betamax Pro cassette comes. It's huge. I stick it in. I call Frankie. Frankie comes over. And it was just the first 3 minutes of the song. And we're watching it, and we're turning up the sound, and we hear, bop, bop, bop. Another one bites the dust. Bam! And I go, wait a minute. They got a song. So I called Stallone. By this time, we're all friends. Hey, Sly, what are you asking us to write a song for? You got a song. Another one bites the dust, right? That sounded great. He goes, oh, yeah, well, Queen, they wouldn't let us use the publishing rights for it. Yeah, couldn't use it. So every day I bow down to Freddie Mercury, because he gave an unknown band like Survivor the shot at the title. And we went right to work. And but we still only had 3 minutes of the movie, and we had to beg Stallone to send us the whole movie. It wasn't really legal to send the whole movie out, but we did. And there in the dialogue, you had Mickey the trainer saying to Stallone, Rocky, you're losing the eye of the tiger. And I look at Frankie, I write it down, I go, there's our title. And I'll tell you, it just went from there. And I remember I was a jogger, I still am a runner, going down around the neighborhood, around the blocks, rising up back on the street, did my time, took my chances, went the distance. Now I'm back on my feet, just a man in his will to survive. Man, the words just kept tumbling out. And we called up the other members of the band, Mark Gervais and Stephen Ellis, of course, Frankie and me, and Dave Bickler, the lead vocalist at the time. And we cut the song in like 2 takes. Do the vocal, Dave nailed it. Send it to Sloan. He goes, you got a world-beaten song. It is going to outlive you and me, but you got a little lazy on me. You didn't write me a third verse. And I go, you're right. Because we just repeated the first verse as the third verse. So back to the drawing boards, and we cheated a little bit. Instead of rising up back on the street, we did rising up straight to the top. Had the guts, got the glory. And we sent it to him. He said, that's it. Next thing you knew, we're in Hollywood, and we're on the red carpet with all the stars, and the flashes are going off, and we're just like, is this real? And the song shot up to number 1 in 1982 and stayed there for 7 weeks on the Billboard charts. And the thing that amazes me, I thought it would be over in a few years. That song is still around, still making a difference in people's lives. It's such an honor when I hear the stories of people that the song inspired to beat cancer, to go across the finish line, to any number of challenges. I mean, can't ask for more than that as a songwriter.
And you actually won a Grammy off that song, correct?
Yeah, it's right in back of me, by the way. I don't keep it too far away because if I have a bad day, I'll look at that Grammy and say, well, I did that. Okay, watch this. And no, it was really great. And to accept a Grammy was just such an honor. We're also up for an Oscar, but we lost out to Love Lift Us Up Where We Belong. Very nice song. Of course, I had my preference, but it's another story. But it's been a great ride.
Absolutely. And for any guitar nerds out there, I really recommend you get the book Through the Eye of the Tiger and read it, because you actually break down how you got guitar sounds on that track and all kinds of cool things. Plus, you get to find out which guitar parts you played and all kinds of stuff that the guitar nerds will go wild for, me being one of them as well. So, absolutely cool.
Well, someday, Dan, you got to come to Chicago, and I'll show you my guitar collection. I have literally 240 guitars. Sounds a little crazy, but I love guitars, and about 100 of them are vintage. Actually, probably more like 130 are classic vintage Fenders, Gibsons, Gretches, Martins, and I just love it. It inspires me. I'll pick up a guitar, like if it's a Strat, it'll bring a certain emotion out on me. If it's a Les Paul, I'll crank it up and start rocking. If it's an acoustic, it's such another trip. You write different songs with different guitars, as I'm sure you know.
Absolutely, 100%. And thank you so much. I would love to do that, believe you me.
Anytime.
And by the way, 250 guitars sounds like just about the right number of guitars, and that's definitely a healthy habit. So you're right where you need to be.
It's legal as far as I know. And my wife is a saint because I have them all over the house. I mean, I literally have them in the bedroom, in the bathroom, in the studio, of course, in the basement. I like to wake up and see a guitar. That's me. That's how crazy I am.
So some other projects you have, Pride of Lions. This is sort of the epitome of melodic hard rock. It's like dream of the best melodic hard rock meeting songwriting that you've ever heard in your life, and all of a sudden it's there, and it's called Pride of Lions. Can you tell us a little bit about the most recent album, Lionheart?
Well, that's really wonderful flattery. Thank you. When I left Survivor in '96, I started thinking about what next. Of course, I went full scale behind the Ides of March. We started doing 50 shows a year. But there was something that was really nagging at me, and a lot of people don't know this, but when I put together Survivor in '77, the game plan was to share lead vocals with Dave Bickler. And Dave was fine with that. And we had songs like Love Has Got Me and Whatever It Takes, and different songs where he would take a verse out. No, I would usually take a verse, and then when it got up in the stratosphere, Dave would take over. And that was kind of the game plan. But Frankie had a different vision for the band, and no comment on that. And it's not like we made a mistake, but he wanted one focal point singer, a la Journey, a lot of the bands that had that one great singer. And Dave was certainly a great singer. So I kind of took a back seat and did the keyboard thing more than the guitar thing. So, that was very hard for me. So when I put together Pride of Lions, I said, this is my chance to try the original prototype of what Survivor was going to be. And look, I don't have the tenor kind of voice, but I knew I had to find the voice that would be my Jameson, would be my Bickler, would be my Lou Gramm, And the Ides of March played the Popcorn Festival in Valparaiso, Indiana. Was right? Yeah. And in the front row, there was this guy watching every move. And afterwards, this guy came up to me and said, "My name's Toby Hitchcock. I'm a singer." And I go, "Yeah, I'm sure you are. So am I." Okay. He said, I didn't blow him off because I'm not like that, but he gave me his phone number and this and that. He seemed like a nice guy. He was about, I would say, mid-20s or early 20s. And when I got home, I got a call from my niece, Kelly, Karen's niece, my wife's niece, and said, Uncle Jimmy, that guy you met at the Popcorn Festival, you got to hear this guy. I just auditioned for the Dick Clark. Dick Clark had a new show, and this Toby Hitchcock sang and blew everybody away. I said, "Really?" Okay, when I believed her because she was a great singer herself and still is. So I called up Toby Hitchcock and he came over to the house. I'm really doing the Cliff's Notes, and he and my niece did a duet called "No Long Goodbyes." I just wanted to hear how he sounded, and I'm sitting right here hearing playback. Larry's there, and all of a sudden I hear Toby's voice come through the speakers, and I had goosebumps. I heard echoes of Dennis DeYoung, of Tommy Shaw, of all the great singers, all combined into one voice, depending on the range that he sang and the velocity. And so I called up Serafino from Frontiers Records, who I was signed with, and I said, we found the guy, we found the singer. And Frontiers flew in to Nashville, and we flew to Nashville, and Toby auditioned right then and there. And Serafino of Frontiers goes, Toby, you're just a baby. You're a baby. And I said, yeah, but listen to that voice. And he just blew him away. So that was the start of Pride Alliance. And now we're on our 7th album, which you just mentioned. And I love this band. It's always been the same rhythm section with Mike Aquino on guitar, Eddie Breckenfeld on drums, Clem Hayes on bass, the keyboard player, Christian Cullen on keyboards, thank you. And we really got a brand, and we've played Europe, and it's just been really fun. And of course, we've played the Midwest quite a bit as well.
You have 2 more projects I want to talk about briefly before we head into some more questions. The first is Jim Peterik's Lifeforce, which is just the coolest pop-infused, easy listening, smooth jazz you've ever heard. And your guitar work on the instrumental of Eye of the Tiger is just superb. Love it.
Thank you. Well, you picked one that I actually played, thank God, because Mike Aquino plays some of those leads too, but I did Eye of the Tiger. It's just another muscle to flex. I mean, a lot of the songs lent themselves to the smooth jazz thing. And I always say when I got home from the road with Survivor or the Ides of March, the last thing I wanted to hear was more rock and roll. I wanted to chill out. So my wife and I really got into the smooth jazz thing, Acoustic Alchemy and Larry Carlton and Fatburger and Spyro Gyra. And we just loved it. And we would pour a glass of white wine and listen to this great sound. And Karen said, why don't you do a smooth jazz record? I said, sounds good to me. And I teamed up with a lot of my friends, including a great singer from Chicago named Lisa McLowry, who we still keep in touch, and she's just a wonderful singer. So and then we played shows, and that was a gas. So that was another, like I said, another muscle to flex.
I think it's very interesting that the sort of entry point for smooth jazz in terms of the scales and harmonies remains the same as sort of pop and rock and hard rock, sort of everything you've been doing. You didn't have to go like transcribe Wes Montgomery solos. You could kind of go and take what you were, your wheelhouse, everything that you were brilliant at, and then bring that to the new genre.
Well, right. And there were a few things that I could do that I couldn't do in rock. And one of them was major sevenths.
Yeah.
If I did a major seventh with Frankie when we were writing together, what's that? Screw that. What is a major seventh? No, that doesn't have any place in rock and roll, And he was pretty right, too, because you don't hear that a lot. But with smooth jazz, it opened up a lot of different chords. So that was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Last project I want to talk with you about is Jim Peterik and World Stage. This is an all-star lineup that you have. You got a couple albums out, you do some live shows, and Buddy Guy playing on Vehicle is such a treat.
Oh, you're telling me. Right in that room there, that's where we record drums, but that was Buddy's room. And he sat on my tweed Bassman, and I sat on a black face Fender Twin, and we just jammed, and it was a thrill of a lifetime. I was a huge Buddy Guy fan. I mean, every year Karen and I would go down to Buddy's Club, which was called Buddy's Club. No. Anyway, his club, what is that? Oh, shoot. It's been a while. Anyway, so I would see him. And almost every time, in fact, every time, he would invite me up on stage. And inevitably, we would do either Vehicle Live or Mustang Sally. Either or. And then finally, we got to be good friends. And what I didn't tell you, though, is right before we would go on, I'd be in his dressing room. Karen would be here, me, Buddy, his road manager, and he'd get this bottle out from the fridge, and it was moonshine whiskey, 145 proof. Yeah, and that was his ritual before the show. Well, I got involved with the ritual, of course, and he poured us shot glasses, and Karen's like, oh, yeah, and I'm like, whoa, yeah. So every time we'd hit the stage, we were feeling no pain, and that's Buddy. And finally he came over, and we did Vehicle together, and we co-sang, and we co-leaded. And it was mainly him on leads. In fact, I think it was all him. But we traded off vocals. That's still one of my favorite moments to relive.
Absolutely.
Legends is the name of the club. Thank you.
Yes, Buddy Guys Legends. Fantastic.
Thanks, Larry.
For the save.
Yeah.
So let's move into the second half of this podcast where I'm going to ask you some questions around lifestyle, creativity, performance, songwriting, really try to understand sort of behind the scenes that helps make the magic happen. So in your book, you write, you'll sleep when you're dead. About how many hours of sleep do you think you get a night?
I'm a pretty good sleeper, Dan. I usually get 8 hours of sleep a night. I really thrive on that, and I can't get around it. I mean, look, if I'm on the road, I remember when you're young, you can get away with 4 hours of sleep. And with the Ides of March, we would drive right after the gig. We would drive to the next town, which was usually halfway across the country, because our booking agent really took a dartboard and just threw a dart. But in those days, when you're young, you can get away with 5 hours of sleep. But I found my voice really recovers, especially after a show. You've got to get your rest. So I try for 8 hours a night.
And that is not just in service to overall health, but also you see vocal recovery a heck of a lot faster, and you probably also feel better and sound better the next day after you slept well.
Amen. And you're right. Vocal recovery is like everything. And, it doesn't get easier, as you age. Like I said, I turned 70 in November, and I really have to warm up now before a show. I mean, in the old days, you just start singing, just like Jameson. He would never warm up, and it would always be like perfect, Well, now I have to go through all the scales, and then I'm okay.
Have you ever tried using mindfulness or meditation to help improve writing, creativity, performance, anything like that?
No. Tell me about it. No, sometimes if you call just lying down and thinking and dreaming, I do that. But I don't consciously, meditate. I don't have a mantra or anything like that. That's not yet anyway.
And when you're having these moments of sort of lying down and relaxing, that's like either a recharging place or a creative place where you're letting new ideas come to you?
Correct. And, this sounds like a cliche, but a lot of times I'll drift off to sleep and I'll write a song in my dream. And it's always like, oh my God, it's amazing, and I'm very lucky if I can shake myself out of that dream and grab my tape recorder or my iPhone and put it down. I can't tell you how many songs that I've recorded that were big hits were really started in a dream. I don't know if you're familiar. You seem pretty well versed in my catalog. There's a song called "We Wish" that was on an Ides of March album, and I don't know what else album. But we were in Germany with Survivor, and in my dream, I didn't know I was dreaming. I was hearing this amazing song, and we wish, and there was a choir and strings and everything, and in my dream I'm going, why can't I write a song like this? And all of a sudden I shake myself out of sleep, and I realized I just wrote that song. And I grabbed my tape recorder, and almost the whole song was right there in a piece.
Wow.
And I started the lyrics, and I played it for Frankie. He goes, oh my God. I said, I just dreamt that. So, it can be a creative time sleeping.
When you practice now, you mentioned warming up. Do you have a time or a specific times of day that you prefer to practice?
Well, I like to work in the morning, at least in the studio, when I'm working with Dennis or if I'm writing for the Ides of March. Right now, what I didn't tell you, and I don't know if this is what do they call it an exclusive.
Okay.
Very few people know about it, but Serafino Frontiers signed me for a new album project. They wanted me to do another world stage album. And I was like, well, been there, done that too recently. How about Jim Peterik's world stage, Women Who Rock the World?
Whoa.
And do an all-female album. Right now, I'm about a month and a half into the album, finding these great singers, some famous, some not famous, but bubbling under. Some classic girls that are, like maybe 40 years old. Some brand new talent that are 18 to 22. I mean, it's so many gals, and there's been so many great performances. I can't tell you how it reinvigorated me. And of course, we're working long distance. But right before this podcast, Larry loaded in a vocal by a girl named Chloe Lowry out of Canada on a song. And just when we connected, I heard a verse and a chorus, and I'm just like, holy, this is amazing. So every day is like Christmas with these new girls that are coming on. Jennifer Batten on guitar, who is the guitar player behind Michael Jackson in the big tour in 1981.
Thriller.
Pardon me?
Thriller, I think.
On Thriller, yeah, small album, the Thriller tour. And then after that, it was Jeff Beck. So I have her on two songs, and she just, not only does she shred, but she's super melodic, and her tone is just amazing. So Jennifer Batten is just tremendous. And I don't have the list in front of me, but I would say it would be fall before Women Who Rock the World will be coming out.
You heard it here first, folks.
That's right.
Mark your calendars. So, Jim, do you still practice technique on the guitar, voice, or piano? Or are you sort of at a place where it's more just sort of maintenance and revisiting and warming up?
Yeah, I'm so busy that it's just doing is my practice, and I'm lucky with that, but I'm not ready. Like if Larry, if I'm working with Larry, the first few vocal takes, it's like nobody's going to want to hear that. I'll tell you that. It really is rough. And then I said, Larry, I need 5 minutes, and I'll go, out of the room, and I'll do some more warm-ups. And I like this one where your cheeks go up, and you get this architecture out of the way. And work on that for about 5 minutes. You don't have to do more than 5 minutes. And you come back, and you're bigger, you're wider, have more fidelity. So warming up is extremely important. As far as guitar, I'm an ortho until I'm warmed up, and then I can fly. But you got to warm up.
Talking about creativity, do you take any steps to stay creative?
Wow, that's a really good notion. I just think living life well is the biggest inspiration. I love to, Karen and I, we just got through some winter weather where we were able to cross-country ski. And things like that get the endorphins going, the happy chemicals, And And every morning now that the snow is melted too much to go skiing, we'll take a hike, and a lot of times it's an hour and a half, and we're marching, and we're talking, and sometimes I'll have my tape recorder or my iPhone with me, and I'll say, Karen, hold on, slow down, or I'll catch up with you, and I'll sing a melody into the iPhone, or sing a lyrical phrase. It's amazing how the endorphins can really stimulate creativity.
So you find that exercise really is a pathway to generating creativity.
Totally. And I think too many guys my age, they just get caught in a lazy thing. The more you can work out, I also belong to the health club and Lifetime Fitness, ding, ding, ding. And a lot of times I'll have an idea while I'm, working on one of the machines, and I'll always have my tape recorder with me, my iPhone, and people are always looking at me, oh, there's the guy with the purple hair again, and he's got a new song. They all know me and like me, though, so they don't think I'm too weird anyway.
Have you ever experienced that there's a time of day where you feel more creative than other times of day?
Absolutely. I'm a morning guy, always have been. I remember when I was just a little kid, 5 years old, I loved to be the one guy in the house that was awake while my two sisters were sleeping and my parents were sleeping. I had I could roam the house, nobody knowing I'm here. And I'm just a morning person, really. I got up at 5 o'clock this morning, and I do some of my best work before my wife even gets up or even wakes up.
Have you ever experienced burnout from too much time spent writing music? So not the lifestyle, not the touring, not the emotional component of everything that was going on at certain points in your life, but specifically from spending so much time on music. Have you ever burned out and been like, I need to put the guitar down for 2 weeks?
Absolutely. But it's very seldom 2 weeks. That would be a lifetime for me. It's more like 2 days, and I'll consciously not do anything musically just to try to recharge the battery. That just happened recently. And a lot of times rejection will create depression. And I won't mention any names, but I submitted a song to a very popular artist, and I really thought I had something. And that artist emailed me and said, no, Jim, I can't relate to this lyric, and the music's good, but it's not happening. Really? Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. And I was so bummed out. I said, well, can you give me another chance? And he goes, oh, of course. But he said, don't push it. Let it roll. So for 2 days, I did nothing in the direction of that song or any song. And finally, I came up with what I think is magic. A whole different song. Same music, whole different lyric. That actually Larry came up with the title, and I'm not going to mention it now, so I haven't even showed it to this gentleman yet. But sometimes you have to take a step back, and I do that.
So what you're talking about is in moments where either your feet are held to the fire over a rejection or something like that, you're actually taking a forced rest. Yes. to up the creativity juice, and that way when you go to write, it's like at maximum pushing into the red.
Exactly. And that's exactly right. And you have to put away the disappointment, put away a little bit of anger that this guy didn't realize how good that song was. You think, what? You're kidding me. I thought that was right up the ballpark. But look, rejection is a part of being a songwriter. It's part of life, no matter what you do. And not everybody's going to love your stuff. I was very fortunate to write with some of the people that really liked my style. 38 Special, we got on that roll. The first thing we wrote was, this one. And that was a pretty good way to start, And then it came about, we're sitting around the kitchen table, the same kitchen table where I wrote Eye of the Tiger. And I've got Don Barnes here and Jeff Carlisi there. And we had never met each other. It's like a blind date, And we were very awkward. And Suddenly, Jeff says, "Hey, why do you have a picture of the Ides of March on your wall?" I said, "Well, see that guy on the left? That's me." And I didn't look the same as I did that day. He goes, "You were in the Ides of March?" I said, "Yeah," and I wrote and sang Vehicle. "Oh my God, it's one of my favorite songs." It totally broke the ice. It was really cool. And just then, Don Barnes says, "Well, I got a title for you." And I go, "What?" He goes, "Hold On Loosely." I said, "I like how that sounds." And I said, "But don't let go." And Jeff goes, "Well, I got a riff." And I said, "Let's hear it." And he goes, I go, "That'll work." And it just came magically. And you see it all around you, good loving gone bad. And usually it's too late when you realize what you had. My mind goes back to the girl I met long years ago who told me, "Hold on loosely, but don't let go. If you cling too tightly, you're going to lose control." My baby, your baby needs something. Your baby needs something. Boy, I'd have to sing the whole song to remember that part.
Got to go back to the beginning to remember the middle.
And a whole lot of space to breathe in. My baby needs something to believe in, and a whole lot of space to breathe in.
There we go.
And that's the formula I live by, and that's how I got my girlfriend back when I was 18 years old. And suddenly, Karen and I were making wedding plans. You can't suffocate. You can't get too close to. You got to give someone a little space to breathe, and I learned that through the years. So I put that all in that song.
Absolutely. So with songwriting for you, sort of averaging out the 1,000+ songs you've written, typically what seems to come first, lyrics, melody, riff, or the full arrangement, or any combination thereof?
Well, none of that. It's a phone call. That comes first. That's my stock answer.
Nice.
But besides the Stallone call, it really starts for me with motivation, a reason. I know that sounds like a cheeky answer.
No, it doesn't.
But it really does. I need something that fires me up. Someone's looking for a song. Oh my God. Serafino of Frontier says, "Maestro, I need a new album. I need it, in the fall." I said, "How about, Women Who Rock the World?" Suddenly I have a focus. Sometimes it's the title that comes first. I love working from a title. The Search Is Over was a title before it was even a song. Vehicle just came to me. It started with a title. I'm your vehicle, baby. I'll take you anywhere you want to go. But sometimes it's a melody that comes first, and I'll try to inhabit it with lyrics. Sometimes it's a lyrical phrase, and I'll try to find a melody with it. There's no formula. Every song is different.
Have you ever been in a situation where you decided to, before you're in the studio with the producer, switch verses? So maybe the first verse becomes the second verse, the second verse becomes the bridge becomes have you ever had that kind of an experience going back and revisiting a song?
Absolutely. And I have a feeling that might have happened to you. But the other thing I like to do sometimes is write a great chorus and then make that the verse. And then, you have to beat that chorus when you get to the chorus. And that's a real challenge. But, if you got a great chorus, chances are it's going to make a great verse. But then you're like, what do I do now? And it's a real challenge. But it's worked time and time again. So remember that, Dan.
That's an amazing strategy, and I love it. It's like a stand-up comedian giving their best joke at the beginning of a set, and then they've got to follow it for the rest of the time. Incredible.
That's right. But I have switched verses, too. And I remember Ron Nevison, who, great producer, probably my favorite producer of my whole career. He did Led Zeppelin, and he did Dave Mason and The Babies, and he did the first Survivor album. The one with the girl on the cover and us in front of a smoking wreck of a fighter plane. And I would be dinking around on the piano writing a song, and it would go from F to B flat, and he would say, try switching that around and go from B flat to F. I said, oh, it's not going to work. And he goes, try it. And I try it, and it works. And he goes, no charge, and he walks away. And I loved where he was not a musician, but he was a super instinctual guy who knows music.
In your book, Through the Eye of the Tiger, by the way, right here, folks, go get it. It's an incredible read. You can hear all about the story, the love story of you and Karen, and just reading everything that leads you up to Survivor and through your whole career. In your book, you talk about the daily cataloging of ideas. Can you explain what is the daily cataloging of ideas and how you approach that process?
Well, so many times I'll be talking with some friends, and they'll say something that's effing brilliant, but they don't even realize it. And I go, what did you just say? He said, blah, blah, blah. I'll write that down. There'll be a commercial, where there's a really good hook phrase. I'll write that down. Or I'm just sitting, thinking, and something will come out of thin air. I'll write that down. At the end of the day, I have a lot of times 2 or 3 pages of what I call hooks. And if I'm writing a song with someone, I'll look through that book and I'll cherry pick some ideas. So you can't write enough hooks, or someone dies in your life, which is tragic, and you put those emotions into words. What's the song we're writing now? Oh, I can't tell the title, but that was inspired by real life. And it's always best when you've actually lived a lyric, like Hold On Loosely or The Search Is Over.
Or Delusional or Illusion. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you can make a song up from whole cloth. Something like High on You, that's just not just, because there's a lot of craftsmanship in that, but it's not going to cure cancer. It's just a very lighthearted song without a lot of super depth. Same thing with Caught Up in You. Hold On Loosely had a lot of inner story. Caught Up in You was pop with no real, just there you stood, it's just really simple stuff, So, but those songs are effective too. The ones that, like I said, aren't trying to change the world, but they're just good dance songs. Hey, I can dance to it and I'll give it a 95, the old Dick Clark show. Those are good too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking this time to come talk to me, Jim. I really, really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Peterik, you can find him, jimpeterik.com, the idesofmarch.com, aprideoflions.com, jimpeterik's lifeforce.com, and of course on Facebook, official Jim Peterik. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you, Dan. It's been a pleasure, because I can tell that you know what you're talking about and that you have some experience. Someday you'll have to tell me what you're up to. But it was a lot of fun, and it was really flattering that you knew so much about my career. That's really cool. I appreciate it.